Hey, what's up and how's it going, everyone? Well, I'm so glad that you have took your time to spend with me right here today on the MRB Wrestling Review Show. I'm your co-host Mike McRock Wilson, and we just saw WWE Friday Night SmackDown. And the show kicked off when Triple H came out and he talked about, stuff like abusive power and favoritism, stuff like that, being a leader, the authority figure, and he talked about how no matter what he does, he is criticized for what he does. And see, here's the thing about that: when you're in a position of power and you're making matches, etc., you're going to be criticized anyway on your leadership. To anyone, no matter if it's the good guys or the bad guys, you're going to be questioned. And the funny thing is, it's just one of those things anyway. It's inevitable for that to happen. So Triple H should be expected for people to question his authority, no matter if he's a babyface or a heel. And the funny thing about that is that it feels like he's really having identity crisis issues. When he first got on the microphone and he said, "Welcome to Friday Night SmackDown," and he got that big cheer pop from the crowd. And, his interaction with The Miz when he came out, and Triple H taking the heat. So it's really back and forth with Triple H, with the cheers and the boos, and it's something needs to give for Triple H at this point in time. So we'll see what happens next week on Monday Night Raw. Hopefully something does give. If not before Battleground, during or after Battleground, something needs to happen with Triple H. And with his partner Stephanie McMahon, it just feels like Stephanie McMahon is the one out of the two really taking in all the heat, whereas the other one, Triple H, is just really don't know which direction he's going to go as his character progresses throughout the show. And when he was interrupted by The Miz, The Miz talked about how he wants a match with Randy Orton when Triple H gave it to him, and kind of planting the idea that Triple H is doing one thing and then doing something else, and where that whole abusive power comes in. So, like I said before, it's strange where Triple H is going as a character, because at one point he'll do something for the fans that gets them the cheers, and 2 minutes later he'll do something that gets him the boos. So it's basically, like I said before, an identity crisis for Triple H. And I really don't understand the logic in that. But with that being said, I thought The Miz on SmackDown was actually pretty good. He came out, he walked with a purpose when he confronted Triple H about what happened to him with Randy Orton on Monday night in Cleveland, when Randy Orton just destroyed him. So with that being said, The Miz on SmackDown was just flat out excellent, to say the least. Also, we saw Alberto Del Rio go one-on-one with R-Truth, and it feels like the millionth time these two went one-on-one, and it just felt really meh. Kind of really didn't care for it, because Alberto going over R-Truth is not really a big deal, because Alberto is going into a match against Rob Van Dam at Battleground for the World Heavyweight Championship, so it really don't make sense for Alberto Del Rio to be competing in these matches. Have him in tag team matches with Rob Van Dam with two other participants, or have, something to gain more interest into this World Heavyweight Championship match. And it feels like this matchup coming at Battleground for the World Heavyweight Championship just don't feel like anything special. And hopefully at Battleground it turns out to be something special when they go one-on-one for the World Heavyweight Championship. Also last night we saw the primetime players in a tag team match versus the Real Americans, and the way Antonio Cesaro was used was alright. It never really showcased him in his wrestling. However, I do like that moment where he just swings Titus O'Neil for like 20 times before he releases him. And this guy is just incredible. His strength is awesome. And it's a shame that Antonio Cesaro is kind of stuck in this tag team with Jack Swagger and Zip Coulter. I think they should let Antonio Cesaro branch off as a singles competitor, because he's a real throwback. He's a natural talent, and he should be used right and not in a tag team situation where it doesn't benefit him at all and it doesn't showcase his talent. So with that being said, kind of didn't like the Real Americans even going over the primetime players, because the primetime players, have this a little bit of a streak going now that they've turned into baby faces, and they should have kept that going. And it feels like they lost a little bit of momentum, but what can you do? Also, we saw Bray Wyatt go one-on-one with Zack Ryder, and I thought it was really, really risky to put Bray Wyatt in that one-on-one match, because usually when the Wyatt family come out, the fans love their entrance. It's really cool and different. And when Bray Wyatt enters the ring, the crowd just goes silent. But on SmackDown, it felt like, there was a little bit of a reaction. It wasn't much, but at least it was something for Bray Wyatt. And the only thing that I think that should happen is that Bray Wyatt needs to stay away from competing in singles matches and have his, bigger guys, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, have tag team matches or whatever. And just, really what should have happened was, Justin Gabriel and Zack Ryder, and not Bray Wyatt and Zack Ryder. Even though Bray Wyatt actually looked pretty good in that match, I think what needs to happen is for Bray Wyatt to be more creepy and cut more promos than wrestling in the ring, I think, in my opinion. However, that finishing maneuver that he does, that kiss on the forehead and then plants him in the mat, little things like that I like. So if they keep doing that instead of having him in one-on-one matches, I think he would do pretty good. Also last night, the U.S. Championship was on the line. Dolph Ziggler faced Dean Ambrose, and what happened was that, of course the Shield interfered right in front of the referee. It wasn't really, it just felt like, a rookie mistake on the part of the Shield trying to interfere. And with that being said, what happened was RVD and Kofi Kingston came out and even the odds, so to speak. I would rather prefer the Usos over Kingston and Rob Van Dam, because we already seen Rob Van Dam, and we pretty much didn't need to see Kofi Kingston because he had a pretty good match on Raw with Alberto Del Rio for that reason. And the other reason is that we already see Rob Van Dam when he came out and attacked Alberto Del Rio after his match against R-Truth with the steel chair. And then afterwards, that happened, Triple H made the match that it will be a hardcore style match at Battleground, and announcing it backstage I thought was really weird. I think they could have just saved that for like next week on Raw in the ring. They make the announcement it's going to be hardcore instead of announcing it backstage when you don't see anyone reacting to it. So I think that the reasoning behind that feels like the way they're treating the World Heavyweight Championship for Battleground, as in it's no big deal when it should be. So that kind of does suck on the part of it is a main championship, and the championship should be, you know, have some sort of dignity or something like that, and just have the match announced in the ring instead of backstage, because I'm old school. Basically, you know, having an announcement backstage just sucks. You have to announce it in the ring. That way you'll get the fan reaction, you know, if they do get a reaction, to see what, you know, how it will go. Basically. And when Ambrose and Ziggler went one-on-one, I thought, you know, that match was pretty good, you know, when it got interrupted because it got involved in a 6-man tag team match, where the very last few minutes of that match just looked incredible. Everything was in sync there. And the way Dolph Ziggler sold that spear was absolutely incredible. And the Shield last night actually looked okay. It wasn't, you know, as big as that dominant 11-on-3 match, because the way the Shield won on SmackDown felt like it was the coward's way out instead of the dominant way. And that kind of made them look weak in a sense, but at least it was a victory for the Shield. And then after that, we saw backstage with Triple H and the Big Show. You know, it feels like they're going to build up to this moment where Big Show knocks out Triple H, and we kind of got that tease out SmackDown. So I like those little things that they're going to build up. And who knows when this is going to explode. Maybe it will explode at Battleground. I think that will be the night that something gives with the Big Show. Also, we saw Cameron go one-on-one in a non-title match with AJ Lee, and now that AJ Lee has the services of Tamina as a bodyguard, and immediately I thought that was a smart move on the part of AJ Lee, because who better to have a bodyguard like Tamina, because she's, an intimidating force in the Divas division. So it just makes total sense that AJ would have her as a bodyguard. And we also got to see Cameron in a singles match with AJ Lee, and I thought, she was actually pretty good. And I think, that Cameron should be involved more in singles matches with other divas, with their Divas champ, and help build to maybe some sort of Funkadactyl split where they could probably go one-on-one eventually and have the champion involved in that as well. And I think that really benefited Cameron, especially that one-on-one match with AJ Lee, because that made her just look good. And so did AJ Lee getting the win over Cameron, and Tamina being that imposing figure, taking out Naomi in that match within the last couple of minutes. Also, we saw Paul Heyman coming out and cut once again an excellent promo. Paul Heyman, for the millionth time, is a win on SmackDown, and he mentioned what happened last Monday with Ryback and Curtis Axel, and he makes the announcement that at Battleground it will be Ryback and CM Punk going one-on-one. What I like is that the roles are reversed, but it's Ryback and CM Punk all over again, and I like how, Paul Heyman played on that cliche. It's them two going one-on-one again, and it's a match I'm not really looking forward to, because they've been involved in matches before, and it sucks that they're dragging this out again, and hopefully it does end at Battleground. And if it doesn't, well, hopefully it ends before this month is over. Maybe at Hell in a Cell, it'll probably be the final draw for CM Punk and Paul Heyman. Because I got a feeling something, there's going to be some sort of cliffhanger, because it feels like it's sort of rebooted again with Ryback and CM Punk. only for the reason for Ryback coming out at Night of Champs and costing CM Punk the match. I think that it might be a little bit too soon to end it at Battleground. Therefore, I think it will end at Hell in a Cell. And also, we saw Heath Slater go one-on-one with Santino Marella, and I gotta say, this was the funniest thing I ever seen in a match. We see Jinder Mahal and the great Khali at ringside playing their little instruments, that ones with the snake reacts to it. Oh, it was just funny and entertaining to watch, to see this unfold in the ring. It was quite the entertaining and amusing thing that happened on SmackDown. I thought it was not only entertaining and funny, hilarious, it was genius as well. And what happened was Santino got the win over Heath Slater, and that whole thing was just absolutely incredible. I actually liked the trio of Santino, Hornswoggle, and the Great Khali. I think those three are actually quite an entertaining three-pair of superstars. So with that being said, win-win situation on SmackDown. And the main event was Randy Orton going one-on-one with The Miz. Ends in a disqualification. And Triple H comes out and says, no, we're not going to end it this way. Restart the match. And I like how, the commentators played on the Miz is out cold. Why restart the match? The Miz just went through hell. And he went through hell again. And I like how JBL played on the heel side of that. The Miz asked for it. He got what he wanted. A match with Randy Orton. And Randy Orton on SmackDown was just, whoa. It almost feels like a reboot of the Viper, only with something new added to his character. I can't quite pin what it is, but it's something. I thought Randy Orton looked great. So did The Miz. The Miz really sold that injury he had with his shoulder. His pain. The way he sold his pain was absolutely incredible. And it's a win-win situation for both guys. And it sucks that, The Miz, I think was actually working with an injury throughout that match. So kudos to The Miz for going through that. And Randy Orton, like I said, looked incredible. Win-win situation for the main event. A solid beginning. Nice middle part. And a solid ending. The rest of the stuff in between was alright. Overall, the show was a good 7 out of 10. And that was my review of Friday Night SmackDown. For the MRB Wrestling Review Show, I'm your co-host, Mike McRuck Wilson. And to all your viewers watching, get plenty of rest and always do your best.